All right, so this is my idea. So I'm using IntelliJ, and I'm going to create a Spring Boot application here and show you how to create your application. We're gonna explore a lot of features in Spring Boot framework, okay? All right, so let's get started here. First, we're gonna click here in New Project, and you can see that because I'm using IntelliJ Ultimate, I can see a few options here like Java, Kotlin, and a lot of different type of projects that I can create here. And if you're not using this IDE, you can use, for example, STS, which is the IDE based on Eclipse. And you also can, for example, use the Spring Start IO that you can create your own application. You can select all the dependencies you need, everything you need, and then you just export and open the project on your IDE. Okay. So first we need to create to give a name of our project. Let's call sales API, which will be an API for handling sales project, for example, products, orders, customers, and everything. Of course, that because the idea here is to start in Spring Boot, so we won't be able to create all the entities because it will take a long time to do that, and I'm going to increase all this content later on here on the channel. Okay, so let's call sales API. After that, we're not going to change here the path for now. It doesn't matter for now. So we need to make sure that we're going to choose Java application as our language. And in the type here, we need to make sure that we're going to create a Maven project. Okay, so Maven is the repository that allows to control every dependency that we need, so we don't need to download one by one, and of course you help us with all of the dependencies that we need on our project. Okay, so the artifact ID we can maintain here, we can keep this name like sales API. We need to make sure also the version of the Java version we need. In this case, I already got the 17, the Java 17 set up on my computer, but here inside your IntelliJ, you could use different versions because you can set up on the project settings. Okay, so after that, we need to make sure that we're going to use jar instead of war. So jar stands for the Java archived. So which means that our application will be running using embedded Tomcat. If we choose to, for example, create our project as a web application archive here, we will have some trouble because we need to install and deploy our application inside an application server like JBoss or Wildfly, or for example download and set up Apache Tomcat. Okay, so we choose here, and after that we just need to create our project here. There is this other property that you can choose, because as you know here, you can choose your application settings to be a property file or an YAML. Okay, so basically we're going to use YAML file for now, the application properties for now, and we're going to create the project. So click next, and here we need to select all the dependencies that we need for now. Okay, so the first one we need is Spring Web, because that's the dependency on Spring Boot that allows us to create REST APIs and all the structure that we need in Spring Boot to allow us to create REST controllers, everything we need about the web context. So first I search here for web, and there is another item that we need to be careful with that, because maybe 3 or 2 months ago, the new version of Spring Boot was released, which was the Spring Boot 4. But we're not going to use Spring Boot 4 for now. We're gonna actually use the last stable version in the Spring Boot 3 release. So we have here the 3.5.10. That's the version we're gonna choose. After that, we're gonna choose here Spring Web, that will allows us to create a API REST. And then we're gonna need a few things here, because we're going to connect into a database, which will be a Postgres SQL. So for that, the first thing we need is the Spring Data JPA. What is that? It's the Java persistence language that we're going to use to create connections, allows us to map our entities to become our tables, that allows us, the JPA also gives us a lot of methods that we can use to search data, save, and a lot of information, a lot of methods that are already ready to go inside the JPA. So let's search for JPA here, and we can check the Spring Data JPA here. All right, is already selected. And another thing that we can choose here, because we're going to connect into a database, we need the database driver. So we're gonna search for Postgres here. So we have here let's Postgres, and we can see that we also have here Postgres driver. Okay, so that's what we need. And for avoid a lot of boilerplate, we're gonna choose Lombok in here also, because Lombok will help us to create clean classes for us, because we don't need to use getter and setters. And I just click to finish. And by that, after that, let me get here the screen. Okay, the project was successfully created here. We have a few informations here that the IntelliJ tries to warn us, or to show a little bit of information like tips that we can allow in our project, enable in our project. So basically, we don't need much. We just created our project, and here, as you can see, we have the project structure. We have the .xml here. That's where we can set up a new libraries, new dependencies, and we have here a few dependencies that we added, like the Spring Boot tests. We have the Lombok dependency, also the Postgres, and we have JPA, a lot of dependencies that we added, and of course the Spring Boot on dependencies here.